Say we haven't heard from this group or this group, and I apologize for that, but it really is a matter of time, and all those things need to be done. We need to continue to work at closing the achievement gap that we've talked about before between our higher end learning kids and our struggling learners. We also need to make sure that we focus on that. All those kids, it's in our mission statement that we will teach those kids to reach their potential. That means our high cap kids as well as the others. We've rearranged that cluster model. It's a transition, but now we're able to reach 200 kids where before we were able to reach 30. So we recognize that. We're trying to find and expand it on those kids. I think we need to do a better job in the school district of selling the positives we have. Part of this process is we look at schools like Union and Camas and Skyview and all those beautiful schools. We're working through the robotics program. When those schools come to our district, it's shocking because they walk into Mark Morse or they walk into our lawn and they go, oh my gosh, you still have a shop. You still have blades. You still have welders. You still have CNC guided laser cutting tools and plasma running tools. We have things those districts don't have. We have an aquatics program and a pool. We still have arts and music education. So I think we need to do a good job of selling the things that we do have, in addition to more flexible programs to reach all those kids. The other thing I'd like to see, and we have some great efforts on this now, is trying to involve more parental education and opportunities for parents to be involved in their school. We need to create a culture that says education is important for all of our students. It has changed. Our job base has changed. Our skills base has changed. And where these kids are going in the future, most of the jobs that they will hold don't even exist yet. We need to make it important and get the parents on board across the board that says this is important and get a commitment from them and the community, because we cannot do it without the community.
Thank you. Mossman?
Well, can we start with Broadway? I love that place because that would make a nice senior center that we didn't have to look for a parking space. We could also rent it out or lease it out to the recreation department. So that we've taken Broadway right off the map right here. And I vote as a senior citizen to use Broadway as our new senior citizen. And that way I don't have to be hustled for a buck when I walk out, or given a ticket on my car because I parked in front of the casino. I do believe that we need to invest in staff, because our staff are the Marines that are going to move these people out. We're going to teach our kids because our staff's ready. They're in service. And we need to invest in staff. And then the second part is a strategy. Some strategy that's going to pull the community and the school together. We don't have that because we started at the wrong end of the horse when we started this building thing. Nobody ever thought of basing the tail when you're going down a road on a horse. We should have turned that thing around and started with the teachers. Second of all, we are, last time I checked, an education institution and not a bank, okay? We're not a bank. So we need to have some reserves, but we don't need a lot of reserves. We need to make sure our investment are in students. And lastly, I found it pretty disheartening that I asked a question that wasn't answered immediately. I wanted to know why in special ed, regular children going to summer school had 5 days and autistic kids only had 3 days. So I called my friends in other states and I said, does that sound logical? And they laughed and they said, Jim, you realize that was your job here. You always made sure that it was equal. So a parent has an autistic child, the summer program should have included 5-day program. That's just logical. It's just logical. And so if we save some money on there for our reserves, I don't think that was money well saved. I believe in things that people haven't seen yet, and those things are that we have a moral imperative to give the best possible education program to our students, be they in special ed or regular ed. And if they are in special ed, we need to make sure there's a pathway to regular ed. Thank you.
Mr. Norton?
Okay, I call myself a can-do candidate, because I have a positive attitude. I believe we need to inspire with that can-do attitude our students. And I agree with Ms. Springer that we need to treat it like a business. I was a manager of KB Toys, or assistant manager in training. I did most of the work, budgets, keep track of bookkeeping, train all the employees, run the store. That's what the assistant does. Manager steps in when he needs to. Customer service is a must. If you want people not to exit your school district, which has happened, you need to provide options on online learning. Pace-based education that I was exposed to in California had before and after school programs option. You could pay a nominal fee to take an extra class, expand your learning. You could do the same for summer school. I was expanding my options as an athlete because I both had options as an athlete and a thing. I had 666 batting average in baseball. Playing baseball at a scout from the farm league scouting me, so I tried to keep up with baseball when I was in California. Also track. I had a 4:19-mile run. My coach said if I get down to 4-minute mile, do you know how close you're to becoming a world-class runner? I never got it below the 4:19 because I moved up here. But I learned a lot from being in that district. They had a drama class. They inspired people. People like Dan Nickerson, he told me, you may be in special education, but you don't need to be. You can test out. I had a 3.66 GPA when I left California, and I wasn't in special ed 1. They have programs like the college does where you could challenge a class. If you knew the material, you could test out of it. They mistakenly put me in a history class and said, you can't do this. You're a special ed student. I said, give me a test. I want to challenge it. I aced the history test because the special education teacher I had in junior high let me read the history book because of something that interests me. You need teachers to inspire. You need a can-do attitude. I hear Mr. Springer say, we can't do this, we can't do this. We need to treat it like a business. Give the people options. Pace-based education, look at my Facebook. I've posted a couple of examples of how to expand things, combine English and history, teach it like it used to. We're going to save money. We'll have money for other things. Those are the things we need to be doing. Can do, not can.
Thank you. Mr. Polsetti?
I don't know if I have butterflies because I'm a little nervous at this point or because this is the most exciting question of the night. But I could probably talk on and on and on about this because this is how to move forward. This is everything that my kids stand for. This is the reason I'm here for all the students in the district. And so the first thing I'd have to say is I want to focus on student success. And I've identified that through innovative technologies and creative learning. Some of the things we haven't got to talk to today are school-based health centers, which I think are very important. A greenhouse for the Lower Columbia School of Gardens at the North Lake facility. I think that would be amazing as well. I've talked to people at their doors about church groups using our spaces and using professional development in the evening hours from our facilities as well. We need to be able to look at everything out there, innovative, creative, everything, and be able to do the most that we can with the resources we have. The McCleary decision through the state of Washington says that the state must fully fund basic education to $4 billion, and they put a down payment on that with $1 billion this last biennium. $1 billion. Our district will receive $182 per student, which is $1 million plus. We need to use that wisely. We need to invest in our future, and we need to, the way we invest that money is we have a plan. We use a pragmatic approach to create goals and do the things that need to be done, and then from there show what kind of success we're creating. With that, we also need to take small steps in facilities. We need to be able to make a commitment now, but be able to look at enrollment and look at the economy in 5 years. So we also need to make sure that there's rigorous programs, but fun programs as well, so students stay engaged. I think we've talked a lot today, and I've heard a lot of buzzwords. My opponent's talked about the achievement gap, but he never really said how he's fixing that. He just mentioned the word. The other thing that we talked about is a recommendation on the report card. I talked about those recommendations, and I think that the opponents here didn't address the question well. And lastly, I think the biggest thing here is that one person said that we have skin in the game. This is not a game for me. This is the future of my kids. This is the future of our community. And I think because of that, we need to really take a serious look at what we're doing and focus on student success.
Okay, thank you. Each candidate now will be around 3 minutes for closing statements. And we'll begin with Mr. Steiner. 3 minutes.
We've had a couple of these forums now. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the first one, so it's been an honor to sit here and talk about school issues. I will say this: it's been interesting since I've been on the board for these 5 years. Is that most of the directors have run unopposed. So as much as in some ways it seems funny to have all these people up here, it's been a good thing because our community is engaging. And I'm telling you, there's not a more important position in this community than on the Longview School Board. We're dealing with the lives of our children. There's nothing more important. This community will only be good as the kids that we send out from this place. And so it's with a lot of pride, I think that all of us can sit up here and say that we're all directing our efforts toward that end goal. I've already spoken a lot about proven leadership. Obviously, I'm stating my campaign on that. I want you to go back and look at the time that I've spent over these last 5 years and what I've done for this community. This is pretty much a thankless job, and for most respects, of course, no one here is paid. We're volunteering thousands of our hours of our times for our kids. And we all do it willfully and want to. And I want my kids to be able to have the opportunities that life can give them. There are some other things that I think are important for our future. I do think we need to get a 5, 10, and 20-year plan for our facilities. We have the facility issue that we're dealing with right now. We can't stop even right here. We as a community have to start planning. We have to look further ahead. We have to start looking at buildings that are aging buildings. At what point do some of these buildings do you say, do we invest more money into this building, or is it time to put a new building up? Those are the kinds of questions we need to start talking about as well as a community to find out what we're going to do. I think we need to establish all-day kinder. That's about to start. That's going to be a big building block, I believe, for our future with our kids. Giving them that early intervention to come in and begin to learn, I think is going to start giving our kids an upper hand as they move forward through their education as well. So as we're beginning to implement it this year, keeping an eye on that, watching how that all flows through. We need to continue to develop our Common Core. That if kids come to any of our schools, they could come to Olympic. And if, as many of the kids that are in poverty or in need in our community often do, they pick up and they're there for a month or 3 months and then they move over to North Lake. Then they'll pick up because of the circumstances they have and they'll move over to Mid Valley. We need to have a Common Core process where those kids can seamlessly move throughout those schools and be able to step back in and continue their education in a way that's going to be valuable to them and going to keep them on track. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for this forum. And I would ask that when you vote for Jerry Stinger for position 1. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, 3 minutes.
Well, thank you again. I'm running for this position for one reason and one reason only, and that is because I'm committed to education. I think it's vitally important to our community and to our students. That's it. There's no other reason. It's not for the cash. It's not for the glory. It's not for all the lovely comments that you get from people, but it's one reason and one reason only. I think my proven record of being approachable, I've never gotten a call, I've never had a meeting request, either from teachers or constituents, even students, that I've ever turned down. I think that's a plus. I am very interested in hearing you and what you have to say, and I will stand on that until my dying day. I think it's important we remember that the day we approach a decision or leave a meeting and your last question is not, how does this affect the students? That's the day we need to stop doing what we're doing. Our declining enrollment with increasing facilities costs is going to continue to be a major issue. I do think we need to develop a long-range facilities plan, but I think we also need to revisit that from time to time, whether it be on a 5-year cycle, would probably be about the maximum. The question is, how long do we kick the can down the road? We've already been kicking it down the road for about 13 years as our enrollment started declining in 99, 2000, and we've lost 1,100 kids. Are we in fiscal peril that we have to do it this year or the district will collapse? No. Do we need to do it next year? Do we need to look at it and start approaching this and having the conversation because of the cycle it takes to successfully transition, whether it be a secondary school or elementary school? Yes, I think the conversation is very important. However, keeping in mind that if we come out the other side and our educational plan and our implementation to the kids is not at least as good as what we have now or better, it's unacceptable. Classroom size increase is unacceptable. Staff cuts are unacceptable. As far as the portables, I'm so glad that I actually have a record because I'll sell them to you. You heard him, he said he'll buy them and I'll sell them to you.
I'll use them for my chicken.
It's pretty easy. If you look at the grade school distribution, there will need to be a readjustment of boundaries and stuff because Northlake has a number of them there. Northlake's full. All our other elementaries are not. That one's pretty simple to look at. I need to approach the achievement gap because I'll tell you, even though we've talked about it, how we do it. One, we stop moving the target. That makes it very difficult. If we're closing that achievement gap and we keep changing the standards and the standards-based tests that our teachers are shooting for, it's very difficult to achieve. So we need to advocate trying to stop the moving target. We are moving away from AYP and we've got the achievement gap index. Work with the transitional bilingual kids. Don't put all our eggs in the AP classes. Give our teachers the latitude to teach that, and with Common Core, hopefully we can implement that with across the district common curriculums. They can do that. So in any case, I'm about out of time, so thank you very much. I'd love to stay around afterward and answer your questions, and I would ask that you do please vote for James Campbell.
Mr. Mossman, 3 minutes.
I'd like to start off with telling you all that my mom had a 2nd grade education, my dad had a 3rd grade education, and I'm one of 8, and I'm the only one who graduated from high school or college. And the only way I made it was because I had an education. The only way. And my mom and dad loved me for that, and my brothers and sisters hated me for that. But I was fortunate, I was given a gift, and the gift was very simple. When somebody told me I couldn't do something, darn it, I was going to do it. And a good friend of mine who just passed away, Tiffany Kiker and I were on the board for ARC, and we had a $7 million budget. And we were always fighting to make sure every dollar went right back to our developmentally disabled students. And people would fight on that and say, well, we need a bigger building. And we'd say, no, service first, kids first. Well, and we fought about developing better programs to get our students and adults back into the community. Well, I still stay with, I'm going on books and not bricks, teachers and not 2x4s, and believe it or not, strategies and not buildings. Because I believe we can bring the education program online with successful students on a broad base. And if we do that, we'll be able to send students to college as well as vocational school. I think that the problem is that we can't divide the drama from the trauma. And we have so much drama because we started on the wrong end of the horse or looking in the wrong direction. So if we just move the rider back and the horse going in the same direction, we'll be able to divide the drama from the trauma and do a better job of solving our problems. Students first, supporting the teachers in the classroom, and a strategy from the district that'll work. And it would be wonderful to see the superintendent working in the classroom, teaching at least 1 hour a week or maybe 5 hours a week, and everybody who's not in the classroom. And that way we engage the administration and the teachers and start having them work on the same team. Imua Kamehameha. That's what I learned when I was going to school, and it's always forever. That's how I feel about our students. Always striving for the best.
Mr. Norton, 3 minutes.
All right, we need to go on the deck and play musical chairs with this test or that test. I've been in special education, they give me every test under the sun. Best test I got was from Miss Shagnon, which was a placement test. It measured your aptitude. And the second that test I got was from the military. It rated my mechanical reasoning ability, IQ, at 210. And they gave me an IQ test at every level of part of the military. Now, I have the aptitude to do a lot of different things. Some things are really simple to some people, not to others. Pace-based education systems, they challenge people to learn. They don't stop you to wait for the slowest person so you can go to the next lesson. These are options that we need to explore. We need to be customer service oriented to what the public wants. Are they going to withdraw their children like they have with homeschoolers? They don't have degrees at home teaching their children, and they're doing better jobs than these people up here with degrees or anybody in education because they have determination, a can-do attitude, not a can't-do attitude. I don't have a can't-do attitude. I'll get it done. I was the first person in my home, first person in my family to buy a home. I put myself through technical school. I have not had to have a bailout. I've seen things coming. If we want prosperity in our country, the jobs that are in our country right now are energy-based. Energy independence lowers the price for all business to compete with foreign nations. Over taxation to corporations is just a backdoor tax on the consumer. It's just another way to say somebody else is giving you a free lunch. They're not giving you free lunch. They're going to get out of your back pocket when the state runs out of money and they'll raise your taxes. These are issues. We need to have a flexible school system. I think we should at least explore the option of modular units. Gives you the option to place one unit at a time instead of having to rebuild the whole school district. The example of how much they've saved up for reserve is people trying to look good for the public, saying we have a good reserve system. Well, you could spend all that on the repairs you got and not even touch it. So in my opinion, this school district's bankrupt. They're coming to us with an emergency after emergency. If you have to constantly come back to the system, you need to change the system, you need to put out the incumbents. I think James Campbell has some really good ideas, and I love his robotics program. I love his ideas on it. I think we should applaud him for that. And the efforts that he has done on this board in that area. And Mr. Springer, or Stinger, sorry. I applaud you for the efforts you have, but I remember. All right, I'm done.
Time's up. Thank you. Mr. Rossetti?
Well, thank you for everybody coming tonight. I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you to all the candidates. Civic participation at its best. This is amazing. And of course to the League of Women Voters for hosting the forum. Thank you very much. You should vote for J.D. Rossetti, that's me, this evening, or by August 6th anyways, because I'm invested, informed, and dedicated. I'm invested. I have 3 kids in the school district from middle school to pre-K. I'm informed. I am listening to the voters, knocking on doors, going to fairs, talking to them about what the questions they have about the schools and what kind of things that they want to see. I'm dedicated. I've been here for 15 years. My beautiful wife over here, she's been here her whole life. And we're gonna have our kids, we want our kids to graduate from Longview schools. So with that, I've talked about the merger, and I've talked about my specific plans. I think we should do some small incremental steps within the next 5 years. We should come up with a strong plan, and we should have a 10 and 20-year plan. But those should be ongoing conversations that are able to be changed as necessary to fit our needs. And then with that, the last thing is we shouldn't focus so much on facilities. We should focus on 3 things, which I outlined in my first speech. First, we should emphasize all children reading by 3rd grade. We should be asking the real tough questions and finding out how we can stop the loss of progress over the summers so that students are being able to read in elementary school by 3rd grade. It's very important. We need to focus on that. Second, we need to focus on STEM technologies in the middle schools, as I suggested, as well as integrating a variety of electives so that kids can have a well-rounded education and find out what their interests are and what they're good at. And then third, we need to focus on 2-year certifications and vocational programs, and we need to have a variety of those in order so that all of our students, whether they're going on to college or going straight into the workforce, can do exactly what they need to do. And then lastly, you should vote for me because I believe in our future and our kids. The mission statement for the Longview School Board, which I believe wholeheartedly, is that we need to ensure the skills, attitudes, and knowledge for responsible citizens in the rapidly changing society. And I think we really need to stick to that mission statement. So thank you, and please vote J.D. Rossetti, position 2.
Thank you. Mr. Nickerson, 3 minutes in closing.
I thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum and thank all of you for coming. Once again, I agree with the incumbent. This district does need leadership. But where the question is, what kind of leadership? In order to distinguish between our two styles, I put together a short list of how I think I differ from the incumbent. The first is, it's my impression that he is a top-down manager leader. He gave you an illustration today. He talked about, he thought we needed more electives at 9th and 10th grade. That's an example of a person in a power position promoting his views without getting input or advice from teachers. If I had an idea like that, I would talk to the superintendent. I would ask the superintendent, please check with the high school faculty, see what they think about this idea. Check with the principals, see how they think it would work. Instead of saying in public, I want more electives at the 9th and 10th grade. Another example of top-down leadership at a board meeting, one of the board members asked for, put a motion on the floor to have a discussion about an advisory vote on the merger question. Just a discussion, not a decision, but a discussion. It was seconded. The incumbent filed the key vote, which said no, he would not allow that discussion to occur. I've made a career out of listening to people. And when I listen hard, and I remember. I think that's how we differ. I would have voted yes on that. I would have had the discussion. I think we need to hear people's views. Another difference, how we perceive the role of the school board. In April 22nd of this year, there was a study session, and I attended this. And I could hardly believe my ears, so I went and I listened to the tape of it to make sure I was getting it right. The incumbent went off on his belief that the role of the Longview School District Board of Directors is to promote something called University City. It's our responsibility to see that kids can get a 4-year degree without leaving town. When Barbara Westrick said, well, I think our role is K-12, he said, I think you're short-sighted. Skip Erling said, well, I think I agree with Barbara. And he said, well, let's just agree to disagree. I think my experience in education provides a new kind of leadership. The fact that I am not from here brings a fresh perspective. I have no vested interest here except the welfare of the school district. I've had a telephone conversation with your incumbent one time, and he told me I was elected to make tough decisions. When you elect me, I don't believe it'll be to make the tough decisions. I think it'll be make the decisions that represent the interests of the constituents and are the best interests for our kids. And the most important thing is I have time. I no longer have a full-time job. I have time. I can do my research. You've seen from some of the comments today, I have done my research. I'll continue to do that as a board member. I ask you please vote for C.J. Nickerson. Thank you.
Mr. Smith will finish with your 3 minutes closing.
What an honor. I get the last words. Well, I'd like to continue that thought about trying to force a system into your own viewpoint rather than to analyze the system and see what's already in place, what the teachers are saying, the feedback from the students and the parents, and then building your model from that. Anybody who works in engineering knows that's the way you do things. You don't try to force it according to the way you believe. That's like systems like communism. They do not work. The reasons they don't work is there are external ideologies that are applied to humans. Now, the incumbent, we differ in many ways, and I'm running because I'm a citizen, that I saw what was going on with our school systems, and I just wanted to make it a choice by the voters to be able to decide